Today, we're going to be making a Spider-Man suit, but out of normal clothes. So super DIY, super easy, sort of like the kind of things that Peter Parker makes when he goes to the wrestling ring or before he gets his real suit. So let's get started. So right off the bat, I do want to give a little sort of disclaimer here. I made the majority of this costume without talking about it on camera. So like usually I'll be at this table here and come in and out while I'm working on things. But since I was working on this costume while I was working on the past video, the Maverick helmet, I didn't really do much in-camera talking. So it's mostly gonna be voiceovers, but I did record as much as I could. So with that out of the way, let's get started.
So I made the mask for this costume just about the exact same way that I made it for my Miles Morales mask video, so I won't be covering it here. Just go check out that video if you want to know how to do it.
All my siblings are in bed right now, so we have to be really quiet. So the first thing that we're going to do is start sketching out where the web lines are going to go on this red sweater that I got from Joann Fabrics.
Right, so to get the shirt started here, I folded it in half and then marked a couple points with a Sharpie right down the middle there to get that mid-web line started. And then I'll draw out the rest of the webs going from the middle out towards the shoulders, as you'll see here. I also drew out all the lines that we're going to cut along later because the red shirt will be later glued on top of a navy blue shirt. After that, we just freehand draw all the webs all the way on the shirt for everywhere that's not going to be cut, and that's going to remain red. So another thing I want to talk about as we're cutting up this red shirt here is that I'm not the first person by any means to make a Spider-Man suit using this method where it's like sweaters, sweatpants, and that kind of thing. There's tons of people who've been doing it before me. A couple of good examples are Spider Boy, Probably Spider-Man, and Spider Cosplays. All those kinds of people that are responsible for coming up with the method that I'm using to make this suit. So I just wanted to give them the credit and the recognition that they deserve.
So if you fold the shirt in half to cut it, make sure you cut out this space in the back so that there's room to put the logo there.
So now that we've got this webbing all drawn out and everything's all cut out, we're just going to go ahead and start just hot gluing it right onto our navy blue shirt.
So it was a bit of a struggle getting this navy blue shirt all situated underneath the red one, but that's because the navy blue shirt was a size medium and the red one was a size large. But in the end, I got it to work and got started gluing them together. So I know a lot of people don't like using hot glue on fabric or something like that because they're worried it's going to break or peel off, but I don't mind it and it works just fine for me, and I did it because it's easy and I don't feel like using fabric glue. Here you can see the belt section was a little bit too long, and that's another one of those issues that came with using a large and a medium together, but I fixed it by cutting a slit down the back of the belt there and then just pulling it together to tighten it up, and then I glued it down.
Right, so now that we've got the whole red glued onto the blue, we're just going to go inside the shirt and cut out all the blue that we don't need.
So you want to be careful here not to cut any of the blue that we want to keep. I know I made a couple mistakes and ended up cutting it in parts, but it was no big deal, and I ended up just gluing it back together and it ended up turning out just all right.
All right, and we've got the shirt on right here, and everything looks pretty good for the most part. So the next thing that we have to do is add sort of a neck here, like kind of a turtleneck type deal. So we're gonna use the bottom part that actually came off the bottom of the shirt. And then once we do that, all we have to do is the logos, and then we'll be done.
So to make this sort of extended neck here, all I did was I took a little bit of that elastic from the waistband, like I said, folded it over, and then glued it together. Once I was done with that, I turned it inside out and then glued it inside the neck, just like this. Final step was to draw on the webs, and then the neck was done. So moving on to the boots, I wanted to make them as simply as possible, so all I did was I went to a sports store and picked up some like athletic baseball socks type deal. So after that, I just put them on and then drew the webs with a Sharpie. So to make the gloves, I just traced out my hand to make a paper template, cut it out larger than I had traced, transferred it to some red fabric, and then sewed it together. If you want to do it really easy, you could just buy some Lycra spandex gloves from like a party store or online or something like that, but I didn't have time for that and I didn't really want to do that, so I just decided to make them all by hand. So we're just doing a quick little test fit, and after that, it's time to draw on the webs. Once again, just like everything else in this video, I'm just going to be using a Sharpie and freehanding all the web lines. Now we're going to work on the logos. So I started with the front one and sketched it out on a piece of paper. After that, I folded it right down the middle. That way I could just cut out one half and it would come out perfectly symmetrical. Next, I used a silver Sharpie to trace it out onto a sheet of 2mm thick black EVA craft foam. After that, I used a razor blade to cut out the logo as precisely as I could. So now we're just going to attach the logo onto the shirt. So to do this, I'm going to use some hot glue once again because it works perfectly fine, and just stick it right down that center web line. I drew and cut out the template for the back logo the same way as the front, and then I started tracing it onto this piece of red fabric that I got from the shirt. After that, we just fold it in half and then cut it out again so we get a perfectly symmetrical shape. Now we just glue the back logo on, and that's it for the shirt. So the last thing to make for this costume is the web shooters. So I started by cutting out a strip of poster board that would fit around my wrist. And I did this because I wanted to emulate sort of the more classic style web shooters Peter Parker uses, where it's like a brace that goes around his whole wrist, instead of it just being a little gadget that attaches to the front of his wrist. I then started curving a piece of cardboard along the corrugation, which is those squiggly ridges that allow it to bend, and then I transferred the poster board template onto that cardboard. I did a quick test fit and then started covering it in some adhesive foil tape. This is the kind of stuff that's used on like heating ducts and stuff like that, and I just use it to cover the whole web shooter and give it a shiny look. Now we're just going to attach some little pieces of Velcro onto the web shooter to make it open and close. So to do this, I used some super glue and also used a technique that I picked up from Sean's Crafts, which is to put some baking soda on one surface that's going to be glued, and then the other one has super glue, which will make it bond stronger and faster. Next, we're going to make a little trigger. So what I did is I traced a quarter onto a piece of paper and then drew a strip down beneath it. After that, I cut it out and we're going to trace it onto some EVA craft foam. I did a little test fit, and now we got to make it silver. So to do this, I just sandwiched the little foam piece between two strips of foil tape. After that, I just trimmed off the excess, and that's basically it for the base of this trigger. Next, we're just going to go ahead and super glue it right onto the web shooter. After that, I cut out this little circle out of some red craft foam, and we're going to glue that right onto the disc at the end of the trigger. Next, we're going to make the nozzle for the web shooter. So I sifted through my junk box here, and I ended up finding this little piece of cardboard tube, which I capped off with a piece of craft foam, and we're going to use that to be the nozzle. So next, we're wrapping some craft foam strips around the nozzle to give it more detail. Once we've done that, we're going to cover it in the same foil tape that we've been using for the whole web shooter. So to make that little box there beneath the nozzle, what we're going to do is wrap some more foil tape around a tiny cube of EVA floor mat foam. The last step is to just glue that little piece onto the web shooter and then repeat it all over again for the second one. Hopefully that one will go a little bit faster because I don't have to worry about recording it.
Alright, well, that's going to be about it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please check out my cosplay Instagram where I post updates more often than I do here. And with that, I guess we'll see you guys next time. Now, one more thing I do want to say. It is going to be a little bit longer before I post the next video because it's something even more special. It's going to take you a little bit longer and we're going places for it. But that's all I'm going to say about that. So, with that, thank you guys for watching and we'll see you next time.